Good morning. This morning we're going to cover the Fiscal Year End Manager. Basically, it's a utility which pulls together a lot of the operations that you need to perform at the end of a fiscal year rolling into a new fiscal year. Comes up the quickest menu is the easiest way to navigate to the modules, or you can go to Utilities and then the Fiscal Year End Wizards. If you have the quickest menu up, just press F about, let's see here, 3 times for the Fiscal Year End Manager, press Enter. And these are the functions that it pulls together. Basically, in the equipment module for calculating depreciation, you can do it on an annual basis, monthly or quarterly, or however you like to roll your depreciation forward. The indirect expenses, if you have indirect expenses in the shop that you then want to spread back to the equipment, for instance, shop towels, miscellaneous supplies, that sort of thing, you can spread those back to the equipment, individual equipment maintenance costs. Meter reset for setting your year-end meter readings forward. The budget for rolling a ending fiscal year over into the new fiscal year, and the project for rolling or projects forward into the new fiscal year. So first, we'll take a look at the equipment depreciation module. The first thing you want to do is click the backup equipment file. This backs up, or in other words, takes a picture of the equipment file before we do any calculations on it. If you do something that you want to back up from, you just simply restore the equipment file, then you're back where you were before you started any calculations. When you calculate depreciation on equipment, the equipment normally will have a salvage value when the useful life is over, and this is a percentage of the cost basis of the equipment. It's usually somewhere around 2%, 5%, 10%, or whatever. You just enter whatever percentage it is in there. And this then takes that out of the depreciation calculation. We'll run the depreciation calculation over 12 months, 1 year. To do that, we set it 5 and 12, click the depreciation module. Now, if you've calculated previous accumulated depreciation, when you're in this module, you want to update it to the current accumulated. But we haven't on this particular one. We'll calculate the current year depreciation. And to verify that, we'll drop into the equipment module, select any one piece of equipment, and down here, this is 1 year's worth of depreciation on this grade all, 22,065.33. And the depreciation calculation depends upon the year it was in service, the life expectancy, and then it does a straight line depreciation calculation. So basically that's all there is really to the depreciation. After you calculate it, if you want to update it to the current year, normally you would calculate, then you go through a year, and then before you calculate, you update it so you end the accumulated depreciation. This will boost it on over. We'll take a look at this. And the equipment one. This would then, when we click that update, it would take this current and put it into accumulated and add it to any accumulated in there. So that you have the accumulated depreciation and the total current year. When this comes into play, a lot of times it will then calculate in this per hour or per mile cost rate. So that pretty much covers the depreciation calculator. We have a help button available on there. Now we go to the indirect expenses. We'll say to run this shop we have say $6,000 worth of indirect expenses, shop towels and miscellaneous supplies that you don't normally during the year charge to a piece of equipment, and we want to spread it evenly over mileage. You can change that percentage to which will then allocate that. So we click the allocate and update, and then we want to verify it, and we'll also reallocate it here, and then it spreads it back. We'll take a look at any one piece of equipment, and this particular piece of equipment, of the $5,000 missed indirect expenses, $78.51 were attributed to equipment 102. And basically that's for allocating back your indirect expenses. If you do, many people don't, or many cities and counties don't, but you can if you want to utilize this. The equipment meter reset basically takes the, well, it's probably best to show you a piece of equipment here. The equipment meter reset is only done at the end of a fiscal year when you roll into a new fiscal year. Each piece of equipment will have the last meter reading down here under PM parameters, and if you want to roll it forward to the beginning meter, which then sets up the next or new fiscal year, then you would run that particular utility. And that just simply rolls those meter readings over to give you a start for the new fiscal year. The start basis on the meters is for calculating your miles per gallon and then keeping track of all the costs during the year per equipment. If you make a mistake on this, you can simply do a restore and start all over again. The budget, the backup budget, let's take a look at budget here. And we'll enter B about 3-4 times so we'll get our budget up. In the budget, each line item is budgeted for the current fiscal year, and then you can, near the end of the fiscal year when you start preparing for the next fiscal year, you could use this item, line item here, to keep track of the next fiscal year budget for that line item. So you can keep the current year that you're in, and the previous year. It gives you 3 years worth of budget look when you come around to budgeting time. So what this does is roll from the next fiscal year into the current fiscal year into the previous fiscal year, so it keeps all your budget in alignment. The project reclassifying projects, basically, let's take a look at a project here. If you have a project, for instance, that is live in the current fiscal year, say 2008, and you want to roll it forward into the current fiscal year of 2009 or 10 or whichever fiscal year you're in, then it just simply reclassifies it into the current fiscal year, meaning that it's live in that fiscal year. It also keeps the original fiscal year here, so you know when it was started, and you'll always have it current up till the point in time that you close the project. So that pretty much covers all of the fiscal year end wizards. Each one of these can save you hundreds to thousands of keystrokes, so they're really handy tools to use. So if you have any questions, give us a call or drop us an email.